Welcome to my channel. Let me ask you one question, just one. And I want you to be completely honest with yourself when you answer it. You have been studying English for years, maybe 2 years, maybe 5, maybe 10. You know grammar rules. You know vocabulary. You have used apps. You have watched videos. You have taken classes. So why? Why does your mouth still freeze? When a real English speaker talks to you, I will tell you exactly why. And the answer is going to shock you. Because the problem is not your intelligence. It is not your accent. It is not your vocabulary. The problem is that nobody ever taught you how to actually practice speaking English. I discovered something that changed everything for me. A method so simple it almost sounds too good to be true. And I tried it for 10 days straight. Every single day. 10 minutes only. What happened to my voice after those 10 days? Stay right here, because I am about to show you everything. Chapter 1. Why your English is stuck, and it's not your fault. Let me ask you something personal, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. How many years have you been studying English? 2 years? 5 years? Maybe 10? And now tell me honestly, when someone speaks to you in fast, natural English, what happens inside you? Does your brain freeze? Do the words disappear? Do you understand everything in your head, but somehow nothing comes out of your mouth the way you planned it? If that sounds familiar, I want you to take a breath right now. Because what I am about to tell you in this chapter is something that most English teachers will never say to you. And it is this: the problem is not you. It has never been you. The problem is the way you were taught to learn. Think about your entire English learning journey for a moment. Where did it start? Probably in a classroom. A teacher stood in front of a board and wrote grammar rules. Subject, verb, object. Present simple, past continuous, future perfect. You copied the rules into your notebook. You memorized them. You passed the test. You felt like you were making progress. And then one day, a real English speaker opened their mouth and said something completely normal, something like, "Hey, what have you been up to lately?" And your brain just stopped. The words hit you like a wall. And in that moment, all those grammar rules, all those tests, all that studying, none of it was there when you actually needed it. That moment, that exact, painful, embarrassing moment. That is what I want to talk about today. Because that moment tells you everything about what is wrong with the traditional way of learning English. Here is the truth that took me a very long time to understand. There are two completely different things happening when you study a language and when you speak a language. Studying a language means sitting down, looking at words on a page, thinking about grammar rules, translating sentences in your head, and analyzing how the language works. Speaking a language means your brain is receiving sounds at full speed. Your mouth is moving. Your breath is working. Your emotions are involved. And everything has to happen at the same time in real time with another human being waiting for your response. These two things are not the same. They are not even close to the same. And the tragedy is that most English learners spend 90% of their time doing the first thing, studying, and then they wonder why the second thing, speaking, still feels impossible. Let me give you an analogy that I think will stay with you forever. Imagine you want to learn how to swim. You are serious about it. You buy books about swimming. You watch videos of Olympic swimmers. You study the technique, the arm movement, the breathing pattern, the way the body turns in the water. You learn about freestyle and breaststroke and butterfly. You can describe perfect swimming form better than most people. And then someone throws you into a swimming pool. What happens? You drown. Not because you are stupid, not because you didn't work hard, but because reading about swimming and actually swimming are two completely different experiences. Your body has never felt water. Your lungs have never learned to hold breath at the right moment. Your arms have never found that rhythm. No amount of reading prepared you for the physical reality of being in the water. English speaking is exactly like that. It is a physical skill. Your tongue has to learn new positions it has never held before. Your lips have to move in patterns they were not trained to make. Your breath has to work differently. Your ears have to process sounds at a speed that feels overwhelming. Your brain has to stop translating and start feeling. And none of that happens by reading grammar books or memorizing vocabulary lists. None of it. Now here is something that most people find surprising when they first hear it. The most fluent English speakers in the world, the non-native speakers who sound almost indistinguishable from native speakers, most of them did not become fluent by studying more grammar. They became fluent by spending enormous amounts of time inside the language, listening to it, speaking it, feeling it in their mouths, making mistakes with it, getting comfortable with the sounds, the rhythms, the music of English until their body started to feel natural in the language, not just their brain. Your brain is an incredible machine. But here is what your brain needs in order to learn a language properly. It needs repetition. It needs sound. It needs pattern recognition. It needs to hear the same kinds of sentences, the same kinds of rhythms, the same kinds of sounds again and again and again until those patterns become automatic, until you do not have to think about them, until they just come out. Think about your mother language for a second. When you speak your first language, are you thinking about grammar? Are you deciding which tense to use? Are you checking your pronunciation before each word? Of course not. You just speak. The words come. The sentences form. It is automatic. It is effortless. It feels like breathing. And the reason it feels like that is not because your first language is easier. It is because you spent years inside that language before you ever saw a grammar book. You heard it thousands of times. You imitated the people around you. You made sounds before you understood words. Your body learned the language first, and your brain caught up later. And that is the single biggest secret about language learning that most classrooms completely ignore. Your body has to learn English, not just your brain. Your mouth, your tongue, your breath, your ears, your whole speaking system has to go through a training process. And that training process cannot happen by looking at a textbook. It has to happen by actually speaking, actually listening, actually feeling the language moving through your body in real time. So where does that leave you? It leaves you here, on this channel, watching this video. And that is not a coincidence, because what I am going to share with you over the next few chapters is a method that does exactly what I just described. A method that trains your body and your brain together. A method that takes English off the page and puts it into your mouth where it belongs. A method that the world's best language learners have been quietly using for decades while the rest of the world was still conjugating verbs in notebooks. But before I tell you what that method is, I need you to understand one more thing. And this is perhaps the most important thing I will say in this entire video. The reason you are stuck is not because you are not smart enough. It is not because English is too hard. It is not because you started too late or your accent is too strong or you do not have the right talent for languages. None of that is true. The reason you are stuck is because you have been using the wrong tool for the job. You have been using a hammer to try to paint a wall. The hammer is not broken. The wall is not broken. You just need the right tool. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about next. Because in the next chapter, I am going to introduce you to a technique so simple that when you hear it, you will probably think, that cannot possibly work. But by the end of this video, you will not just understand why it works. You will have already felt it working in your own mouth with your own voice. Stay with me, because the next few minutes are going to change the way you think about learning English forever. Chapter 2. What is English shadowing? The simple truth. Okay, so now you understand the problem. You understand why years of studying grammar and memorizing vocabulary lists have not given you the speaking confidence you deserve. You understand that English speaking is a physical skill, not just a mental one. And you are probably sitting there right now thinking, fine, so what is the solution? What is this method you keep talking about? I hear you. Let me tell you right now, in the simplest, clearest way I possibly can. The method is called shadowing. That is it. That is the word. Shadowing. And I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, that sounds complicated. That sounds like something for advanced students. That sounds like something I probably cannot do. Stop. I promise you, by the time I finish explaining this, you will realize that shadowing is one of the most natural, simple, and powerful things a human being can do to learn a language. And the best part? You can start doing it today, right now, with zero equipment, zero money, zero special skills. So what exactly is shadowing? Let me give you the simplest definition in the world. Shadowing means you listen to a native English speaker and you speak along with them at the exact same time, not after them, not when they pause, not when they finish their sentence, at the same time, simultaneously, like a shadow follows a person. Think about that image for a moment. A shadow. When you walk in the sun, your shadow moves with you, not behind you, not in front of you, with you. At the exact same moment you lift your foot, your shadow lifts its foot. At the exact same moment you raise your arm, your shadow raises its arm. Your shadow does not wait. Your shadow does not think. Your shadow just follows, instantly, automatically, in real time. That is exactly what you are doing when you shadow an English speaker. You become their shadow. They speak, and at that exact same moment, you speak. Their voice and your voice move together through the sentence. Now, I know your first reaction to this, because I had the exact same reaction when I first heard about shadowing. I thought, wait, how can I speak at the same time as someone else? I do not even know what they are going to say next. That is impossible. And here's my answer to that. Yes, it feels impossible at first. And that feeling of impossibility, that discomfort, that confusion, that is not a sign that you are failing. That is the sound of your brain building new connections. That is the feeling of real learning happening inside you. Let me explain why speaking at the same time is actually the magic ingredient. The secret ingredient that makes shadowing so incredibly powerful. When you repeat something after a speaker stops, your brain has time to think. It has time to translate. It has time to analyze the grammar. It has time to check itself. And all of that thinking, all of that analyzing, that is exactly what creates the gap between understanding English and speaking English naturally. Because in a real conversation, you have no time to think like that. Real conversations do not pause and wait for you. Real conversations move fast, without stopping, without mercy. But when you shadow, when you speak at the same time as the speaker, your brain has no time to translate. It has no time to check grammar. It has no time to be afraid. It has to just go. It has to follow the sound. It has to move with the rhythm. And in doing that, something beautiful happens. Your mouth starts to learn. Your tongue starts to find new positions. Your breath starts to fall into a new pattern. Your ears and your mouth start working as a team for the very first time. And that team, that connection between what you hear and what you say, that is the foundation of natural, fluent, confident English speaking. Let me give you another analogy because I think this one is going to make everything click. Think about music. Think about learning to play a song on a guitar. Now imagine two students. The first student reads about the song. They study the chords on paper. They learn the theory. They understand which fingers go where and why, but they never actually play along with the music. They just study it. The second student sits down with the song playing and they strum along. They make mistakes. Their fingers do not always land in the right place. Sometimes they miss the beat, but they are playing. They are feeling the rhythm of the song in their hands and their body and their fingers. They are learning the music from the inside. Which student do you think will be able to play that song naturally after 30 days? Obviously, the second one. Not because they are more talented, but because they put their body inside the experience of the music. And that is exactly what shadowing does for your English. It puts your body inside the experience of the language. Now let me be very clear about something important, because I do not want you to go away with the wrong idea about what shadowing is. Shadowing is not translation. When you shadow, you are not trying to understand every single word. You are not stopping to look things up in a dictionary. You are not pausing to figure out the grammar structure of the sentence. If you do not know a word, you keep going. You shadow the sound. You shadow the rhythm. You shadow the shape of the sentence. Understanding comes later. First comes the sound. First comes the feeling. First comes the movement. Shadowing is also not passive listening. This is very important. You cannot shadow while sitting on your couch half asleep with your phone in your hand. Shadowing requires your full energy, your full voice, your full attention. Every part of you has to be present and active and alive in that moment. Because you are not just listening to English, you are performing English. You are training your speaking system the same way an athlete trains their body. And athletes do not train passively. They train with intention. They train with focus. They train with effort. And here is something that I find genuinely exciting about shadowing. The science behind it is real and it is serious. Researchers and language experts have been studying this method for decades. One of the most famous names in language learning, Alexander Arguelles, a man who speaks more than 50 languages, has talked about shadowing as one of the core methods he used to reach an advanced level in language after language after language. Think about that. More than 50 languages. And shadowing was one of his most important tools. Why does it work so well? Because your brain learns patterns. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. And when you shadow the same kinds of sentences, the same kinds of rhythms, the same kinds of sounds again and again, your brain starts to recognize those patterns as normal, as natural, as automatic. And once something becomes automatic in your brain, it stops requiring effort. It just happens. The way walking requires no effort. The way breathing requires no effort. Because your brain has done it so many times that it does not need to think about it anymore. Now, I want to do something right now that most YouTube videos about shadowing never do. I want you to actually try it. Right here. right now, in your seat, wherever you are watching this, I am going to say a few sentences, and your job is simple. Speak along with me. At the same time, do not wait for me to finish. Just open your mouth and go. It will feel strange. It will feel uncomfortable. You might feel like you are talking over me, and that feels rude. It is not rude. It is the method. So let us go. Speak with me right now. Every single day I am getting better at English. My voice is growing stronger and more confident. I am not perfect yet, but I am moving forward. Good. How did that feel? Strange? A little bit chaotic? Maybe you fell behind on the second sentence? Maybe you got the words but lost the rhythm? Perfect. That is exactly how day one of shadowing is supposed to feel. That feeling of slight chaos. That feeling of almost keeping up but not quite. That is your brain being stretched. That is your mouth being trained. That is real learning. Now let us try it one more time. This time a little faster. This time do not think. Just follow the sound. Ready? Every single day I am getting better at English. My voice is growing stronger and more confident. I am not perfect yet, but I am moving forward. Yes, that is it. That is shadowing. That simple. That powerful. And that small experience you just had, that 30 seconds of speaking along with someone else, that is already more useful for your speaking than an hour of grammar study. Because your mouth actually moved. Your breath actually worked. Your brain actually followed a natural English rhythm in real time. And now here's the question I want you to sit with as we move into the next chapter. If just 30 seconds of shadowing already feels different from everything else you have tried, what would 30 days feel like? What would happen to your speaking if you did this for 10 minutes every single day for a month? I will tell you what happens. But first, I want to take you back to my very first day of trying this seriously. Because it was not smooth. It was not impressive. And if I am being completely honest with you, it was a little bit embarrassing. But what happened on day 1 and day 2 and day 3, that journey, that uncomfortable, beautiful, messy journey, is exactly what you need to hear before you start yours. So stay right here, because chapter 3 is where the real story begins. Chapter 3, Day 1 to Day 3, The Uncomfortable Beginning. Let me be honest with you, completely honest. No filter, no pretending, because I think you deserve that. When I first tried shadowing, I was terrible. Genuinely, embarrassingly terrible. And I think that is the most important thing I can tell you right now. Because every video you watch on YouTube shows you the results, the transformation, the confident speaker at the end. Nobody shows you day 1. Nobody shows you the mess. Nobody shows you the moment you press play on a podcast and open your mouth and absolutely nothing comes out the way you planned. I am going to show you that. right now, in this chapter. Because if you know what the beginning actually looks like, you will not quit when it happens to you. And trust me, it will happen to you. And that is completely okay. So, day one. I sat down at my desk. I found a podcast in English. A simple one. Slow, clear. A native speaker talking about everyday life. Nothing complicated. I pressed play, and I told myself, okay, speak along, right now, go. Silence. My mouth opened, and nothing came out. Or when something did come out, it was half a word, a broken sound, a mumble that did not resemble English at all. The speaker was on their third sentence, and I was still stuck on the first word. I kept falling behind. I kept losing the thread. I kept stopping to think and then losing my place completely. I paused the audio. I took a breath. I pressed play again. Same thing. I felt ridiculous. I genuinely sat there and thought, maybe this method is not for me. Maybe I am doing it wrong. Maybe I am just not built for this. And I want to stop right here and talk to you directly. Because I know that voice. That voice that says you are doing it wrong. That voice that says maybe this is not for you. That voice is not your friend. That voice is your comfort zone trying to protect itself. And your comfort zone, as comfortable as it feels, is the exact thing standing between you and fluent English. So I did not quit. I pressed play again. And slowly, something started to happen. Not something amazing. Not something dramatic. Something very small. I started catching one word here, then two words there, then a short phrase. Every single day, I got that one. Every single day. I shadowed it perfectly, and then the speaker moved on and I fell behind again. But I had that one phrase. And that one phrase felt like a tiny victory. And tiny victories are everything when you are a beginner. That was day one. Now let me tell you about day two. Because day two introduced me to something I had completely ignored my entire life. Something that changed the way I hear English forever. Rhythm. I want you to say this sentence out loud right now. Say it normally, the way you usually speak English. Ready? I want to go to the store. Say it. Go ahead. How did it sound? Did every word get the same amount of time? Did every word get the same amount of weight? If yes, that is the problem. That is exactly why English learners sound different from native speakers. Not because of accent, not because of vocabulary, because of rhythm. English is not a flat language. English is a musical language. It has a beat. It has stress. Some words are big and loud and long. Some words are small and quiet and fast. And the difference between those words is not random. It follows a pattern, a rhythm, a music that native speakers feel in their bones without even thinking about it. Let me show you what I mean. Listen to how a native speaker actually says that sentence. I want to go to the store. Did you hear that? Wanna, not want to. Wanna. The words melted together. They connected. They became one sound instead of two separate words. And the word store was the biggest, most powerful word in the sentence. Because that is the important information. That is where the stress lives. When I discovered this on day 2, I felt like someone had turned the lights on in a dark room. I suddenly understood why native speakers sounded so fast to me. It was not that they were speaking quickly. It was that words were connecting and blending and melting into each other in ways I had never been taught. Going to becomes gonna. Want to becomes wanna. Did you becomes didya. What are you becomes whatcha. This is called connected speech. And it is one of the biggest secrets in the English language. And shadowing is one of the only methods that teaches you connected speech naturally. Because when you shadow, you are not reading the words on a page. You are following the sound, and the sound shows you the real English. The English that lives in mouths, not in textbooks. So on day 2, I started paying attention to the music of the sentences I was shadowing. I stopped trying to get every single word perfect. I started trying to feel the rhythm. I started trying to catch the big stressed words and let the small connecting words flow between them. And something shifted. I started to sound just a little bit more natural. Just a little bit, but enough to notice. Then came day 3. And day 3 was the hardest day of the first 3 days. Not because the shadowing was more difficult, but because of what I made myself do on day 3. I recorded myself. I want you to understand what that means for someone who is self-conscious about their English. Recording yourself means you have to hear your own voice, your real voice, not the voice you imagine you have, not the voice you hear in your head while you are speaking. Your actual recorded voice coming back to you through a speaker. And for most English learners, that moment is genuinely shocking. I pressed record. I shadowed for 2 minutes. I pressed stop. And then I played it back. And I sat there very still for a moment. Because the gap between what I thought I sounded like and what I actually sounded like was bigger than I expected. My rhythm was still quite flat. My connected speech was almost non-existent. Some of my vowel sounds were not quite right. And my intonation, the music of my voice, was very monotone, very robotic. Every sentence sounded almost the same. Now, here is the moment where everything matters. Here is the fork in the road. Because in that moment, you have 2 choices. Choice 1, you feel embarrassed. You feel discouraged. You think, I sound terrible. This is hopeless. You close the recording. You put your phone down. And you quietly decide that shadowing is not working and maybe you will try again next week. which means never. Choice 2. You get curious. You listen again. You think, okay, that is interesting. My rhythm is flat. My words are not connecting. My intonation is the same on every sentence. That is specific. That is useful. That is my roadmap. And instead of feeling embarrassed by the gap between your voice and the native speaker, you feel excited because now you know exactly what to work on. I chose choice 2, and that decision changed everything. Here's something I want you to write down, or at least remember. The gap between your voice and the native speaker is not a sign of failure. The gap is your teacher. The gap is showing you exactly, precisely, specifically what needs to change. And the beautiful thing about shadowing is that every single day you practice, that gap gets a little bit smaller. Not dramatically, not overnight, but consistently, reliably, like water wearing down a stone. By the end of day 3, I had learned 3 things that I want to share with you right now. First, falling behind the speaker is not failing. Falling behind is the practice. The moment you fall behind and jump back in, that is a rep, like a push-up for your speaking muscles. Second, rhythm matters more than vocabulary in natural speech. A sentence with simple words spoken with perfect rhythm sounds more natural than a complex sentence spoken completely flat. Third, recording yourself is not optional. It is the most honest teacher you will ever have. It shows you your actual starting point. And knowing your starting point is how you track your progress. Now I want to ask you something. Something personal. Have you ever recorded yourself speaking English? Have you ever sat down and pressed play and really listened to your own voice? If the answer is no, I want you to do that today. Before you even try shadowing, just talk for 2 minutes in English about anything. Your day, a movie you watched, what you ate for lunch. It does not matter. Just speak and record. Because here is what happens when you record yourself on day 1, before you start shadowing seriously. You create a before. And when you have a before, you can have an after. And that after, the moment you listen back to your voice 30 days later and hear the difference, that moment is going to be one of the most motivating experiences of your entire English learning journey. Day 1 was messy. Day 2 opened my ears to the music of English. Day 3 showed me my starting point. And I want to be honest with you. 3 days in, I had not transformed. I did not suddenly sound like a native speaker. I did not feel confident. I still fell behind. I still made mistakes. But something had quietly shifted inside me. Something important. I had stopped being afraid of the discomfort. I had stopped expecting perfection. I had started thinking of every mistake as information instead of failure. And that shift in thinking, that small but powerful change in mindset, was the thing that made everything that came next possible. Because what came next, on day 4 and day 5 and day 6, is where the real magic started to happen. And I promise you, you do not want to miss it. Stay right here. Chapter 4. Day 4 to day 6. When something clicks. Have you ever had that moment? That one single moment where everything you have been struggling with suddenly makes sense? Where the fog lifts, where the confusion clears, and you think, oh, oh, so that is what has been happening this whole time. That moment came for me on day 4, and I want to take you there, right now, step by step. Because what I discovered on day 4, day 5, and day 6 completely changed the way I understood English. Not just how to learn it, but how it actually works. How it actually lives and breathes in the mouths of native speakers. So let us go back. Day 4. I sat down for my shadowing session. Same routine, same desk, same podcast. But this time something felt different before I even pressed play. I felt less afraid. I felt less worried about falling behind. Because after 3 days, I had started to accept something important. The discomfort was not the enemy. The discomfort was the point. So I pressed play, and I started shadowing. And then I heard something that stopped me completely. The speaker said, "I don't know what to tell you." Simple sentence. 5 words. Nothing complicated. But the way it came out of their mouth was nothing like how I would have said it. It was not, "I do not know what to tell you." It was smoother than that. Faster than that. More connected than that. It sounded almost like one long word instead of 7 separate words. I don't know what to tell you. I pressed pause. I played it again. I listened very carefully. And then I heard it. Really heard it. The words were not separate. They were melting into each other, flowing into each other, connecting in ways that made the whole sentence sound completely different from how it looks on paper. And that was the moment I truly understood connected speech. Now I mentioned connected speech briefly in the last chapter, but I want to go deep on this right now, because this is one of the most important things in this entire video. This might be the single biggest reason why English sounds so fast and so confusing to non-native speakers. And once you understand it, once you really see it, you cannot unhear it. Ever again. Here is what connected speech means. In natural English, words do not always sound the way they look. When native speakers talk at a normal conversational speed, words blend together. Sounds change. Some sounds disappear completely, and new sounds appear between words that were not there in the individual words themselves. Let me give you some examples right now. Stay with me here. This is going to feel like a revelation. Want to. In a textbook, it is want to. In real English, it becomes wanna. Going to becomes gonna. Got to becomes gotta. Have to becomes hafta. Kind of becomes kinda. Out of becomes outa. A lot of becomes a lotta. What are you becomes whatcha. Did you becomes didya. Would you becomes woulja. Are you seeing the pattern? These are not lazy mistakes. These are not bad English. This is how English actually sounds when spoken naturally by native speakers at a normal speed. This is the real English, the living English, the English that exists in conversations and podcasts and movies and real life, not the English that exists in textbooks and grammar exercises. And here is the thing that made me genuinely emotional when I realized it. I had been studying English for years, and nobody had ever taught me this. Not one teacher, not one textbook, not one class. They taught me want to. They never taught me wanna. They taught me going to. They never taught me gonna. And because of that, every time a native speaker used these natural connected forms, my brain heard something it did not recognize. And it panicked. And I missed the meaning. I was not mishearing English all those years. I just had not been taught what real English actually sounds like. Shadowing fixed that. Because when you shadow, you do not read the words. You follow the sound. And the sound teaches you the real connected forms automatically. Naturally. Without a grammar lesson. Without a list to memorize. Your ears hear it. Your mouth copies it. Your brain stores it. And slowly it becomes normal to you. So on day 4, I started shadowing specifically for connected speech. Every time I heard words melting together, I focused extra hard on that moment. I slowed it down. I played it 3 times. I tried to feel how my mouth needed to move to make that connected sound. And it was hard. My mouth kept wanting to separate the words, keep them clean and distinct the way I had been taught. But I kept pushing, kept following the sound, kept letting my mouth learn something new. And by the end of day 4, I could feel a tiny difference. Just tiny, but real. Then came day 5. And day 5 was the day that pushed me outside my comfort zone in a completely different way. Day 5 was the fluency push. Here is what I mean. Up until day 4, I had been shadowing at a comfortable speed. I was choosing audio that was clear and not too fast. I was pausing when I needed to. I was being kind to myself. And there's nothing wrong with that at the beginning. You need that gentleness in the early days. But on day 5, I made a deliberate decision. I chose audio that was faster than comfortable. A podcast where the speaker talked at full natural speed. No slowing down, no pausing for effect. Just real, fast, natural English conversation. And I told myself, you are not allowed to pause. You are not allowed to stop. Just keep going, no matter what. Even if you fall behind, even if you miss whole sentences, even if you sound like complete chaos, keep going. And let me tell you, it was chaos. I missed entire sentences. I was speaking words that the speaker had already finished 3 seconds ago. My mouth was moving, but the sounds were all wrong. It felt like trying to run at full speed when your legs are still learning to walk. Uncomfortable, messy, almost impossible. But here's the thing I noticed. At the end of the session, when I pressed stop and sat quietly for a moment, I felt something I had not felt in my previous shadowing sessions. I felt alive. I felt like something in my brain had been stretched and challenged and pushed in a new direction. And I remembered something important. You do not get stronger by lifting weights that feel comfortable. You get stronger by lifting weights that challenge you, by pushing your muscles just past their current limit, and then resting, and then doing it again. And each time, your limit moves a little bit further. Your capacity grows a little bit bigger. Speaking English is exactly the same. If you only ever practice at a comfortable speed, you will only ever be comfortable at that speed. But if you regularly push yourself to follow faster English, your brain and your mouth start to adapt. They start to keep up. They start to process faster. And slowly, the speed that once felt impossible starts to feel manageable. That is the fluency push. And it is uncomfortable. And it is necessary. And it works. By the end of day 5, I was exhausted. Genuinely mentally tired in a way that comfortable studying never makes you feel. And that tiredness told me something important. Real learning had happened today. My brain had worked hard. My mouth had been pushed. My speaking system had been trained. Then came day 6. And day 6 was perhaps the most beautiful discovery of the entire 10 days. Day 6 was about intonation. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever heard a very advanced English learner? Someone with excellent vocabulary and almost perfect grammar, but something still sounded slightly off? Something still felt not quite natural? You could not put your finger on exactly what it was, but something was missing. I will tell you what was missing. Intonation. Intonation is the music of language. It is the way your voice goes up and down, speeds up and slows down, gets louder and softer, to communicate meaning and emotion. And it is one of the most invisible, most overlooked, most underteached elements of English. But it is absolutely crucial to sounding natural. Let me show you what I mean. Take this simple sentence. Really? Now say it with flat intonation. Your voice stays completely level. Really? Now say it with rising intonation. Your voice goes up at the end. Really? Now say it with falling then rising intonation. Really? Now say it with surprise, with disbelief, with sarcasm, with genuine curiosity. Every single version sounds different. Every single version communicates something different. And all of that difference comes purely from intonation. Not from vocabulary, not from grammar, from the music of your voice. English is full of this music. When English speakers are excited, their voice goes up and speeds up. When they are making an important point, they slow down and get lower and more serious. When they are asking a genuine question, their voice rises at the end. When they are making a statement they are confident about, their voice falls at the end. When they want to sound friendly and warm, their voice has a kind of bounce and rhythm to it. Most English learners speak in a very flat, even tone. Every sentence sounds almost the same. Not because their English is bad, but because they were never taught that English has music. They were taught the words. They were never taught the melody. On day 6, I started shadowing specifically for intonation. I stopped worrying about getting every word perfect. Instead, I focused entirely on the shape of the voice. Where did it go up? Where did it go down? Where did it speed up? Where did it get quiet and serious? I tried to copy not just the words, but the entire musical performance of the sentence. And something remarkable happened. When I played back my recording from day 6 and compared it to my recording from day 1, the difference was not just in the words. It was in the feeling. Day 1 sounded like someone reading from a script. Mechanical. Flat. Careful. Day 6 sounded like someone actually talking. Actually thinking. Actually feeling the words as they came out. I had found the music. And once you find the music of English, you cannot lose it again. So let me summarize what days 4, 5, and 6 taught me. Because these 3 days, these 3 discoveries, are the heart of what makes shadowing so powerful. Day 4 taught me that real English is connected. Words melt together. Sounds change. And shadowing teaches you this naturally, through your ears, not through a grammar book. Day 5 taught me that discomfort is the signal that growth is happening. Comfortable practice keeps you comfortable. Uncomfortable practice makes you better. Day 6 taught me that English is music. And to sound natural, you do not just need the right words. You need the right melody. 3 days, 3 discoveries. And by the end of day 6, I was not the same English speaker I was on day 1. Not even close. But here's the thing. The journey was not finished. Not even halfway. Because days 7, 8, and 9 were waiting for me. And those days brought challenges I genuinely was not ready for. Especially day 9. Day 9 was the hardest thing I did in the entire 10 days. And when I tell you what happened, you are going to understand something about English speaking that most people never figure out. So, do not go anywhere. Chapter 5 is coming. And it is going to be very honest, very real, and very, very useful. Stay with me. I believe in you. Completely. Without question. Without reservation. Now go shadow something, and come back and tell me how it felt. And that brings us to the end of today's video. But before you go, I need just 30 more seconds of your time. Because I want to ask you something in the comments right now. Tell me, when was the last time you spoke English and actually felt good about it? Not just understood, not just okay. Actually good, confident, natural. Write it in the comments below, because I read every single comment, every one. And your answer might be exactly what another learner needs to hear today. If any moment in this video made you think, yes, that is exactly me, that is exactly my experience, please hit the like button right now. It takes 1 second, but it helps this video reach another English learner who needs it. Someone who is sitting somewhere right now feeling stuck and frustrated and wondering if they will ever sound natural. Your like helps them find this video, so please hit it. And if you want to keep going, if you want the full shadowing practice sessions, the rhythm training, the connected speech exercises, the intonation work, everything that takes you from where you are today to where you want to be, subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell. I post every single week, and every single video is built for you. The learner who is done studying English from the outside and is ready to start living it from the inside. You already watched this far. You are already ahead of most people. So do not stop now. Subscribe, like, comment, and most importantly, go shadow something today. I will see you in the next one.